Hello. Bit premature here by a few seconds. Back with myself, gonna speak. Today we were scheduled to do a follow-up show with myself and Mr. Daniel Louis, Dan Keck, to do a continued discussion and chat, which we started about a month ago. He's unfortunately unavailable. So what we're gonna do instead is, as you probably know by now, there was some breaking news and an assassination attempt happened in the yesterday now. And when the story first broke, I did a short post about in the early hours of the morning, 1-2 o'clock. Wasn't much reported. It wasn't even confirmed yet that this was an assassination attempt. Since then, there's been a lot of stories and much more information. It's come to light, and it's definitely an assassination attempt which has failed. So, for the good of let me put it in a different way. I do believe Mr. Trump has used one of his 9 lives, one way to put it. And I would say whatever your views might be, it's a blessed thing. Hard to believe the bullet can come that close and had a positive result. Anyway, since then there's been a lot of stories, a lot more information and confirmation about what actually happened.
Donald Trump missed ending it all. We're going to show the bullet trajectory in theory. Of course, this is preliminary stuff. This is not actually the investigation and all of that stuff, forensics. But you can see Donald Trump moving his head.
We're listening to Officer Tatum.
And you can see that he narrowly missed losing it all in front of the world.
Basically, just going to take the opportunity
to the Secret Service.
Have a look online.
I made a video earlier about the Secret Service.
Who's reporting what.
had an incredible take on Fox News. I want to play his take.
We've just come through our elections resolved. Labour's been given another opportunity to do what they can do, at least for the next 4 years or so. The American elections are coming up, scheduled for November. It's been hotting up with the one single debate Trump and Biden have had. Since Trump lost the election and Biden took over, the country has been no less polarized than before, and now seem to be getting into some very serious and shaky territory. For now, we just have to watch and see who does what next. But in any case, I think it's a positive thing. No one's life was taken, and a lot of people are going to have to look into exactly what has taken place, conspiracy theories aside. What went wrong security-wise, though? They acted fast and contained the situation. Let's see what people are reporting on, starting with Mr. Officer Tatum.
So there's a controversy around women on the Secret Service team, and I have an opinion about that. The GoFundMe that Donald Trump put up, or at least his team put up, to help the fallen people at his rally, at least one.
And you know what? This is another thing. When they first reported the incident, of course, they didn't know exactly what happened. Besides the obvious, we heard gunshots. Trump was injured, and it transpires that although the bullet missed him, there was at least one fatality and some other injured parties. So I think that's what Mr. Tatum is discussing now. The fact that Trump responded promptly. There's something about a GoFundMe. It's been set up, and he's expressed his concern and condolences to the family who lost a loved one, and I guess he's trying to do something helpful to help them in a time of tragedy. Bearing in mind,
who was I think a volunteer firefighter.
he
I
came
think he was
very
a chief
close
or something
himself.
of that nature. He may have been a volunteer firefighter chief. It seemed like they were from a small town, but that man lost his life. He had children. It looked like a young guy, man, with his life ahead of him. And so we're going to talk about that GoFundMe as well. And then shout out to everybody that bought the merch.
I mean, this is another thing. The guy, the shooter himself, turns out to be a 20-year-old, they say registered Republican, which, yeah, doesn't really tell you more than the obvious, because, you know, his actions tell another story. I mean, yeah, he didn't take a life, but his life was taken within seconds of his actions.
On the Tatum store, we'll get to that as well. So letting a couple people get in, let's get started. I want to start off with the trajectory angle of Donald Trump and how he narrowly missed losing his life. Let me pull the clip up here. And I'm in the way a little bit,
Wow.
but if you look at it,
That's close.
Donald Trump was speaking, and in a split second, he kind of turned to the right. And when he turned to the right, that bullet went right by and clipped his ear. If Donald Trump...
I'll tell you what, the shaky thing about this whole story is when it happened, it didn't even look like anything serious took place. I mean, it was like a split second. When you look at the pictures now that they've got of Donald Trump, the moment the bullet clipped his ear, they actually show the bullet in flight. It's crazy.
wouldn't have turned,
Really is.
or he would have been speaking for a split second longer and hadn't turned a little bit to scan the crowd, you know, talking to
Would
the
have been
crowd, and you
over.
talk to these people and you turn this way, that guy could have possibly pulled the trigger when Trump's head was this way and Trump barely...
They said, some early reports, the bullet was inches away. I wouldn't even call that centimeters. You're talking fractions of a millimeter, possibly. That close from you're here and then you're not.
moved and it clipped his ear. This is
Shaky.
how close Donald Trump would have been to us never seeing him again. This
Not being
trajectory
Trump
in his head angle
anymore.
this way, that bullet would have went right through. Overpressure would have turned.
I just have to say, just for the record, since Trump became president and lost the last election, okay, there's been people ratcheting things up on both sides. Except, I mean, the people who've been going to the furthest extreme and saying, I'm not going to repeat half of what's been said, but, you know, they've been saying they'd be more than happy to see the behind of Trump as a, you know, not only a opposition to Biden, literally they wanted him to be taken out of existence. And yeah, they might have been talking in an intellectual, theoretical sense, but after what's happened now, you know, are they going to change their stance, or is it going to be more of the
All this
same?
the mush. And it would have went
We'll
straight
see.
through the back of his head, and we would have saw a horrific scene. And people have been traumatized forever. And you know, they wouldn't have never censored it. It'd have been all over the internet. Thank
Yeah.
God. I don't know if it was God telling Trump or his instincts.
Someone's
But he went
looking
to
out for
address
him.
the crowd and barely turned this way, and that bullet whizzed right over and took the top part of his ear off. And now, thank God,
Fraction
he's
of a
still with
moment.
us today. Now, let's talk about Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino had an incredible clip in his addressing of the failures of the Secret Service. So anybody know anything about Dan Bongino knows that Dan Bongino was on the Secret Service
Ex-security
team.
service.
I think under Barack Obama, maybe even Clinton. I don't know. He did it for 12 years, so maybe under Barack Obama's administration. Dan Bongino is obviously a patriot. He's one of my favorites, man. He's always squared away. Great guy. Served.
See, thing I don't get, if you had members of the public who saw this young dude crawl in on the rooftop of a building, and the guy's got a weapon in his hand, they notified, I don't know if it was the police or members of the security services, and within that time, Trump was still speaking, and it took like literally, I know, with 8 shots or more or less, and then they took him out. What happened to the moment they spotted him? Taking action. Don't get it.
Country, all of the above. But Dan Bongino gives an incredible take, and I want to share that with you guys because, like I told you the other day, I've given some information about the incident. I've spoken about the incident, but I wasn't a sniper, and I didn't work with the Secret Service, so I don't know exactly what that communication entails. I was on the SWAT team, but I was a rookie on the SWAT team, so I didn't get to do all the cool call-outs. I wasn't one of the point men on the team leaders. And I never, while I was on the SWAT, never had an opportunity to work with Secret Service and do any of those specialty details. You had to have been on the SWAT team for several years and be proven to be able to get on a tactical team that addressed dealing with the president or even being a point person or a sniper on our SWAT team. So I didn't get a chance to have those experiences. That's why I lean towards people like Dan Bongino to give an articulable reason why. So I'm going to play Dan Bongino's clip on Fox News. Then I'm going to show you guys and explain to you some of the ballistics, because most people aren't talking about the ballistics and the capability of certain firearms and certain people who have those firearms. And I think it's invaluable to talk about that and kind of show the distance between the shooter and Trump and kind of articulate that. I think it's very important to do that.
Yeah,
so
that's something I was curious about.
Bongino, and
they've said around 200 yards.
Some incredible information from Dan. Hopefully I can get him on one day and we can talk about it. Wrote a clip.
This, Dan, just continue where you left off on the reaction here.
So, again, open security questions right now. And this is why, again, I think the Secret Service, the PR, Anthony Guglielmi, has to be very careful about what they put out. You know, he says in his X post, and you can read it yourself, you don't need to hear it from me, that they deployed these extra.
I've tried to look across the board. The Republican right-wing news networks and channels, and some of the left side, just a few of the ones that land in the middle. So we're not going to just stop on Tatum's channel. Just want to hear what he has to say on this part of the story, and then we'll move on.
For resources and technology. Okay, well, which ones? You're telling me the best technology you have was deployed and you missed a shooter 130 yards? Say it was 200 yards.
Exactly.
The Secret Service CS team, Pete, the counter sniper teams, and I'm not sure those two guys are secret.
I mean, these guys have helicopters. They've got, I'm guessing, members of the security services in plain clothes mixed in with the public. You got the snipers on roofs, the spotters for the snipers. Yet still,
service. We have, remember,
miss this.
We don't always, when we go to New York sometimes with high-level protectees, we'll use NYPD ESU counter sniper. So I'm not really sure either way, they'd still be briefed in. The question we have to ask is, if that's the best technology we have, and we had a CS team up there with a shooter that,
they're lacking.
You know, we're trained out to 1,000 yards in the Secret Service with the counter sniper team. How did they miss someone at most, you know, 1/5 of the way there? It doesn't make any sense. And even worse, it's broad daylight on a white roof. So, again, open questions here. Was there forward-looking infrared deployed? Was there aerial support, drones, helicopters? You know, something happened too. If you go back and listen to the audio, I want you to listen to this after I get off here. When Donald Trump, after this tragic thing happens, you'll see the Secret Service agents. And by the way, I know some of those guys personally. It takes a lot to run into bullets, divorcing the security failure. So at least they did that part, you know, correctly, and they knew what they were doing after the security absolutely failed. But you're going to hear something if you listen closely. The guy mentions Hawkeye on the scene. He's talking about those two, the black BDU with the tactical gear CAT element, that two-man CAT element. That stands for Counter Assault Team. That's a Secret Service Special Weapons Team, equivalent to our SWAT. So they're there. They all deployed and did what had to be. That the bunting around the front of the stage is probably armor. Donald Trump knew to duck. I mean, most people would. He saved his own life. That's just a fact.
Listen, This is another interesting story. I mean,
Was
from his
bullied,
title alone,
every day. He was just
trying
an
to blame the
outcast.
man for his own assassination attempt.
I mean, he would
How
sit
does that
alone at
work?
lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays. So
Right, they're talking about
they're
the
gonna see someone like
suspect.
that, and they're gonna target him because they
assassin.
think it's funny or whatever. So it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. Like, I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
It's a young dude
Yeah.
throwing his life away.
I want to say
almost
he
took
was a
someone
loner more
else's.
because he was quiet, but like he was just bullied. Like he was bullied so much. He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed.
And you know what? For those who've been saying, okay, this guy's the devil, he's like Hitler and this and that. I mean, your average balance, level-minded person's gonna, digest the information, weigh it up and move on to the next statement, extreme or otherwise. Your unstable personality, which, the culture and society is mixed up of all types of people. They might react to that differently.
His appearance.
How do you dress?
Like they
And
were
that
just
could be
saying
what's happened
jeans.
here.
He'd wear hunting outfits sometimes. He would always wear a mask even after COVID.
All right, guys. So I am here to inform you that
For the next few days and probably weeks and months to come, we're going to have conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. But the strange thing is, some things that may have a week ago sounded like a possible conspiracy theory may have a slight amount of merit to them. We're yet to see.
unfortunately, the mainstream liberal media and the Democrat Party civil war is officially over following the failed assassination attempt of former President Trump.
Okay. Took him to court, tried to drain his funds. That's just the most recent approaches to stopping this man from being eligible to be elected. They didn't manage to get him put behind bars. America being a gun-based culture and having a history of, sometimes taking the person they want off the table, taking them out, using those methods, assassination or however you want to put it. Maybe, and I hope this doesn't sound slightly conspiracy theorist, this was one of the last resorts. However else was they going to get rid of Trump before November?
Mainstream
Who
liberal
knows?
media is going to go back to being an arm of the Democrat Party. And you're going to see that happen over the next few weeks or so, because at least up until now, the mainstream liberal media has attacked Joe Biden since he laid an egg at that debate. But the reason why they are attacking Joe Biden, they're covering his cognitive decline. They're actually being fair and honest. They're doing journalism. It's not because they want to do it. It's because they do not want Trump to win. And they see Joe
Most
Biden
definitely.
as a weak candidate that needs to step aside so that somebody with a better chance can actually beat Trump. Okay? So, in a sense, they never stopped being an arm of the Democrat Party. They were just working on behalf of Democrats that wanted to pressure Joe Biden to get out of the race. Okay? They were being used, okay, for the purposes that the Democrat elites want them to fulfill at this time, which is to throw Joe Biden out of the White House, right? This is what they want. They want Joe Biden out of the White House. However,
That kind of makes sense.
he is stuck to his guns. He says he's not going to step down. And now all of a sudden, following this failed assassination attempt on Trump, the Democrats have decided that, you know what, we're going to back down from trying to overthrow Joe Biden.
So you got two problems here. You got Biden not wanting to budge. And I don't blame the guy. He's sitting in the most sought after political job on the planet. He's there now, up for re-election. he's at an age where he's not going to be starting a new career campaign. So hold on to what he's got. If the opportunity's there, it's probably an ideal way to spend the years you've worked towards, well, short of retirement, and he doesn't look like the retiring type. And then you got Trump on the other hand. He managed to get into that seat, lost it the second time round, bided his time, for want of a better word, and the opportunities come around again. So you got these two huge characters, none of them looking like they're willing to concede an inch or a moment in time. So they're going to battle it out. But the methods, I'd say, are what are coming into question. We'll see. Let's return to this.
Okay, this is what they're doing because they
story.
want to rally around Joe Biden in the wake of
excuse me.
what happened to
Just have to take care of this slight issue. Right, we'll soon be back on track.
wake of what happened to
Here you go.
former President Trump.
With the pulling of ads, are you indicating that Joe Biden is changing other plans for the week ahead?
Not at this point, Margaret, we don't know. The other element of all this, of course, is his own political future. As we've reported, just an hour before this incident, before the president was going to his Saturday night mass in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, just before the former president was shot in Pennsylvania, he was in the midst of what's been described to us as a defensive, angry call with dozens of House Democratic lawmakers raising concerns about his political prospects. He was defensive, we're told, in that conversation. And while the conversation about his...
And excuse my demeanor, been a long day. I'll be doing some of these streams earlier. And also, I'm planning on in the coming weeks integrating some performance and musical aspect to the live streams. Probably be doing that on the Cornerspeak CBC channel and bringing on some other interesting personalities to debate with.
Future may be suspended for now. In the words of one lawmaker, it may resume again if he, quote, has another episode.
Though
Margaret?
I've been speaking...
Go ahead. We just have to wrap quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. I've been speaking with some top Democrats. They believe that those Democrats who have the concerns about President Biden are now standing down politically, will back President Biden because of the...
So this situation has calmed and deflected some of the news media's focus off of the Biden health issue and squarely onto Trump. And at the same time, the debate is still on Biden.
Fragile political moment. All of that
American
talk about the
politics,
debate
very
faded
complex.
almost instantly among my top Democratic sources as this unfolded. Say it's time for the country to stick together, and that means Democrats sticking together as well.
Yeah, so the key that I want you guys to focus on there is that all of the attention instantly was taken off of the debate and Joe Biden because that's what they were talking about up until this point. And now it is all on Trump. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be that way because the president almost died.
Right,
He's almost
so.
killed. Right? Obviously, this should be the #1 news story in the world, and it is. However, Democrats are understanding that politically speaking, this is a chance for them to regroup because now the attention is off of them. It is back on
course.
Trump. And best believe they want to keep it on Trump, right? And here comes the media who is going to do the Democrats' bidding as they always do by spinning a narrative to make it okay to get back to business as usual, which is Democrats in the mainstream media relentlessly
like
attacking Trump, which is why you're seeing the media do mental gymnastics in order to try to make it Trump's fault that there was an attempt on his life. Like, for example,
See, one of my big fears is we're months away from the actual election. I think there was coming up to confirming Trump as the chosen Republican candidate for the elections. Now, who knows what's going to happen the closer we get to the elections in terms of people expressing themselves away from the ballot. And then you've got post-election, whoever wins, left or right, how's the other group going to respond? If at this stage we're hitting boiling point. Space to watch.
The mainstream liberal media is talking about Trump's rhetoric, and somehow, some way, Trump's rhetoric has contributed to this failed assassination attempt.
So somebody tries to out the guy, and the media are still finding some type of gymnastical, intellectual way of concluding that he's brought this on himself. They're good.
Happening.
Also, George, we have to point out, no matter who the shooter, what the shooter's motives were, no matter who the shooter is, you are going to hear conspiracy theories going forward.
No question about that. But as you point out, those statements from J.D. Vance and Vivek Ramaswamy, of course, President Trump and his supporters have contributed to this violent rhetoric as well.
Holy moly.
Absolutely,
Wait
George.
a minute.
We were just looking back this morning at some of the things that
Yes,
former
go
President
again with
Trump
that.
has
President Trump has contributed
theories going forward.
himself.
No question about that. But as you point out, those statements from J.D. Vance and Vivek.
The things that former President Trump has said. He warned last March of potential death and destruction if he were charged by the Manhattan District Attorney. Our country is being destroyed as they tell us to be peaceful. Trump in January warned of bedlam in the country if the criminal charges against him succeeded. And of course, in March, he said, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
She's
that
trying
will
to
be
say
the
he's
least of it.
somehow
He said he was partly joking and that was
electorate.
taken out of context. But those are indeed his words. And you have heard it from supporters as well. And supporters are certainly in some parts angry. And let's remember January 6th.
Be angry.
In so many ways for the campaign. January 6th will probably be in the background after yesterday's event. This is a very difficult time for this campaign.
I mean, the funniest thing is CNN in the early hours, before more information came into the frame, were reporting the story as an incident. I think even one of their stories described it as he tripped or fell or something like that. They just didn't want to use the words attempted assassination. They wouldn't even go as far as calling it an assault. I mean, they probably progressed to more factual statements since then, but I wouldn't be surprised if they haven't.
Sure. This week in Milwaukee that President Trump will highlight this and President Biden is going to have to figure out how to go forward with his campaign and what exactly they say.
Martha Raddatz, thanks very much. Let's bring in.
Wow. So what you have here, guys, is the mainstream liberal media, instead of giving honest commentary about how more than likely this individual was a radicalized leftist that tried to assassinate the president, because that is the only theory that would actually make sense, unless you're actually pushing a conspiracy theory, which would be that somehow, some way, this guy is far right, okay, or that Trump was targeted for not being conservative enough, which is exactly what MSNBC is going to put out there, which is funny because them saying that there's a possibility that Trump was targeted for not being.
Yes, check this out. Bear with me a second.
Finally, before I let you go, we're facing an unusual situation. The sentencing decision for former President Trump has been delayed now until September, but I know that you have to be planning for at least the possibility that a former president is going to have to spend time in jail. Is there a plan in place? How exactly would it work?
So the Secret Service has a responsibility of protecting all of our protectees, no matter where they are. So we would come up with an appropriate plan should that situation arise.
Is it possible to protect a former president in jail?
I think that we have the responsibility of protecting our folks no matter where they are, and so we will figure out how to strike that balance.
She would know The 28-year veteran was on the team that evacuated Vice President Dick Cheney on 9/11, and she served on then Vice President Biden's protective detail. He named her director in mid-2022. Amid a swirl of controversy over the agency deleting nearly all of its text messages from January 6th. The agency says that was due to a data migration.
System migrations happen, but I think for a lot of Americans, it just doesn't pass the smell test, given the timing and the volume of messages deleted.
Well, it's unfortunate that that would be the assumption that people would make. Our integrity is everything, and there was nothing nefarious attached to that.
Their integrity.
U.S. Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle must resign.
Right, I'm just scrolling.
She was warned about this.
She
ignored the warnings. And then he doubles down. I want to repeat and can absolutely confirm.
Just for balance.
The U.S. Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle has repeatedly turned down requests for a larger security footprint around President Trump, despite knowing the threat level is catastrophic. Resign tonight.
All right, guys. So once again, we got to follow up on the fallout surrounding the failed assassination attempt of former President Trump, where I feel like every 5 minutes I am thanking God that Trump did not get hit fatally by that would-be sniper. However, I do unfortunately have to report that a hero did die that day, and the hero is identified as ex-volunteer Fire Chief Corey Comparator, ID'd as Trump.
Let's see what they have to say here. Democracy Now! I'm sure
this is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As the world watched Thursday evening, President Biden held his first solo news conference this year after hosting a NATO summit in Washington, D.C., in which he accidentally referred to the Ukrainian President Zelensky as Russian President Putin before quickly correcting himself.
Russia will not prevail in this war.
Right, in the meantime, let's see what our own BBC have to say on the story.
Donald Trump has survived an assassination attempt at a rally in Pennsylvania. Before we start this full hour with reports and analysis, let's first show you that moment Donald Trump was shot.
Take a look at what happened.
Yes,
the FBI
traumatic.
says the gunman, who was on a nearby roof, killed a spectator and wounded 2 others before being shot dead by snipers. Well, as you can see, security agents rushed to protect the former president. They later hurried him off stage with blood on his face. In a social media post, Mr. Trump said a bullet had pierced his ear. He's now in New Jersey, where he plans to spend the night at his private golf club. This image, obtained by the entertainment news outlet TMZ, shows the exact moment the shooter, who is lying on his stomach, lines up his shot from the roof. Clearly questions about how he was able to do that without being stopped. The gunman
Any of the big left-leaning channels reporting on this story.
What you're hearing is some of the reaction from the clearly very distressed crowd after he was killed and the panic which ensued. Well, speaking at the news conference, the FBI Special Agent Kevin Rojek gave this update.
This evening we had what we're calling an assassination attempt against our former president, Donald Trump.
Let's have a look at what...
It's still an active crime scene. As I mentioned, we have a number of agents on scene. We also are working closely
Yank
with
has to
other
say.
federal agencies, our state partners.
I mean, this was posted an hour ago. And it's not really focusing, based on this title, on the Trump story. I would have thought that would be the biggest.
It is. I'll explain.
Story.
So they're considering it. What does it mean to give up? What does it mean to consider it? I'm going to explain all that to you in a minute. CBS has got an interesting report out that I need you guys to know about. And so, as you can tell, I'm at a hotel because we're in Milwaukee. We're here for the RNC. Our coverage all week is going to be crazy. So we're going to have guest after guest. We're going to have the normal show, of course, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 o'clock Eastern. You know that. And then after that, we're going to have live play-by-play coverage of all the speeches, including Trump's speech, including Tucker Carlson's speech, etc. So it's and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, you know all those characters that are slated to speak. And so let me get to the story here. And by the way, thank you to all of our members who sent us to the RNC. and we appreciate you guys. We couldn't come here without you, and so hit the join button if you like our coverage. CBS reporting, Acosta is reporting that his Democratic sources are saying that in a moment like this, in fact, let me quote him for you guys. He was on Face the Nation. This is Robert Costa from CBS.
Okay.
He says, I've been speaking with some top Democrats. They believe that.
Let's hear what Biden had to say in his address. This is quite important.
Good afternoon. Last night, I spoke with Donald Trump. I'm sincerely grateful that he's doing well and recovering, and we had a short but good conversation. Jill and I are keeping him and his family in our prayers. We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victim who was killed. He was a father. He was protecting his family from the bullets that were being fired, and he lost his life. God love him. We're also praying for the full recovery of those who were injured, and we're grateful to the Secret Service agents and other law enforcement agencies and individuals who risked their lives.
All of this for the sake of trying to prevent democracy from running its course, and let the battle be fought at the ballot box.
Literally for our nation. As I said last night, there is no place in America for this kind of violence, or any violence for that matter.
It's one thing I'll say about the UK. Maybe if you go far enough back in history, but recent times, I can't recall any stories of assassinating any previous prime ministers or candidates.
It's contrary to everything we stand for.
Although we have had some tragedies and tragic cases where, as you'll recall, the politicians that have been targeted.
As a nation, everything. It's not who we are as a nation. It's not America. And we cannot allow this to happen. Unity is the most elusive goal of all. But nothing is important than that right now, unity. We'll debate and we'll disagree. That's not going to change. But we're going to not lose sight, in fact, who we are as Americans. Look, Vice President Harris and I were just briefed in the Situation Room by my Homeland Security team, including the Director of the FBI, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Attorney General, the Director of the Secret Service, my Homeland Security Advisor, the National Security Advisor, and we're going to continue to be briefed. The FBI is leading this investigation, which is still in its early stages. We don't yet have any information about the motive of the shooting.
Okay, he's been quite long about this.
I urge everyone,
switch to
everyone, please, don't make
CBS Philadelphia. I'm not sure exactly which direction they lean in. We'll get a sense of that shortly. See what they have to say.
This is a CBS News special. I'm John Dickerson in New York. Good morning. We're covering the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
If you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Yeah, it's that quick.
Everybody's screaming,
No
drop.
matter how
And you
many
could see
times
the
they
blood
replay
like
that.
splatter on his face, and the Secret
Shocking.
Service just barricades him.
I heard screams, and I heard another pop, and I seen just chaos and emotion everywhere.
To carry this day in my memory for the rest of my life, like, I'll never forget this. Nobody will ever forget this.
That it's hard to unhear those bullets. It's hard to unhear the screams of people who are here, some with their kids.
The FBI stands with the people of Butler County in
Okay,
Western
you've got
Pennsylvania.
50 Cent and Meek Mill and a few other rappers reacting to
If
this
you want to
shooting.
really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Let's get it from the urban perspective. Trump is defiant though. Did the fist bump. His supporters got up and cheering him up. He made a firm exit.
See him, but we could hear him. So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, But we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof.
This is the bit that's sort of baffling.
50 feet away from us.
I've heard some say that
we're pointing,
with all of their special
the
training and
and
resources
gun, right?
they have available to
We
them,
could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely.
would there be a remote outsider possibility that this guy was spotted and somewhere in the chain it was almost allowed to happen and they were going to come in and clean it up afterwards? I mean, it's a bit of an extreme concept, slightly aiming in the direction of conspiracy theories, but this is just so messed up. You don't know. It's going to take days before the ideas start to land and clarity really comes into the
Pointing
mix.
at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were
strange.
like, oh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him.
He's on the roof.
Crawling.
He's not part of the security services.
Next thing you know, I'm
And they
like,
didn't
I'm
take
thinking to myself,
immediate
I'm like,
action.
why is Trump still speaking?
Why?
Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him
Definitely.
for 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof. Just
This guy's
standing there
thinking
like
the same.
this.
Thinking the same
And
thing.
Next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
What's
You're
that about?
certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes.
He was up
you
there.
You saw him up there for a couple
A
of
lot
minutes.
of head
Absolutely.
shaking.
At least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling the police and the Secret Service?
We were telling the police. We were pointing at him for the Secret Service,
That's
who
the
were looking
BBC
at us from the
reporter
top of the barn.
on the
They were
spot.
looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
Could they see
Binoculars.
Could they see him?
Probably not, because the roof, the way the slope went, he was behind where they could see. But why is there not Secret Service on all of these roofs here?
At all?
So there's
Oh,
an
yeah, they blew his head off.
explanation for everything.
Okay, sorry.
Secret Service blew his head off.
Okay, just be careful because we don't quite know who's watching. But you're pretty sure they.
Look, he asked him a question. The guy answered the question using the English language, I guess, in the best way possible. What took place? This is what took place. It sounds unpleasant, but it is what it is.
They shot the guy.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Multiple media outlets and people on the scene and things like that, as y'all just saw. And also the shooter who did this assassination attempt, he was killed also. They have a video on Twitter of him laying on top of the roof, but I can't put that here. But I do want to send condolences to the families of the guy who was shot and killed. There was an attendee, his family, loved ones, close friends. This is an altering somebody else, and they just grabbing these memes from Twitter and stuff like that.
The jokes
Plies
continue.
jumped out there and went on Twitter and started saying that this is fake and everything like that. It's not true. Y'all thinking this is real. Get up out
Some people are still going to be laughing, but maybe not as many.
of here and stuff. Meek Mill went and was like, man, what is really going on? He's saying this is all spooky. He the one that I seen that news clip on right there where they was saying, bro, this ain't fake. This is real right here. It's going crazy right now. So
Doesn't
then
get
also
much
I
more
seen
real than
Peasy out of Detroit. Donald Trump had recently went out there. He had pulled up on him. He said hard body. Then Dope Boy had put something up out of Cleveland. And then also I seen different people in the game. Elon Musk was reacting to it. I just say this, man. We just witnessed another moment in history.
Now that's interesting because Elon Musk came out straight away and he's endorsed Trump.
Crazy world, presidential assassination. I don't know how this affects the election. I don't know what's to come, but everybody who able to live.
As bad as it gets, it appears and comes across as though the Democrats no matter how they stomp this guy down, they're actually raising him up. And obviously that's not their intent. Seems to be the outcome.
As this day,
thank goodness no lives weren't taken.
It's a blessing every day you take on earth, because you never know, bro. You could have been going to this rally today and things could have went left, and the bullet might not even been intended for you, and then these type of things happen out here. We living in some real crazy.
Look, while I'm trying to find something coming from the left, I think the black conservative perspective is a good place to go for clarity with these stories. This was something he reported on yesterday, so it'll just give us a recap. I hope I'm not boring you all yet with this subject, but it's going to be the biggest story for the day.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about some terrible, terrible, terrible breaking news that, honestly, like, I'm just mind blown right now in regards to what I just saw, what the world is witnessing that happened to President Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. It appears as if he was shot in what seems to be an assassination attempt.
Sure.
And it looks like it hit him in the ear. Now, as far as I can tell right now, it looks like President Trump is fine. In fact, he got up defiant.
Can you imagine that? He turned, I can't remember what direction. Imagine if he just leant to one side or just, didn't move or didn't have his hat on. Just one alternative move. And that bullet wouldn't have grazed him. Crazy.
And he was fist pumping. But I want to go ahead and play the clip for you guys so you can see what happened. And you guys let me know what you think. But this is crazy. This is honestly insane.
Oh. What happened there? Give us a second. We'll get back on track. Apologies. Right, here we go.
And you guys let me know what you think. But this is crazy. This is honestly insane.
And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Wow. That fast. Wow.
Said, take a look at what happened.
Yeah, so it looks like Trump got shot in the ear. Okay, I saw a little bit of smoke.
Most definitely did.
But as far as I can tell, I'm not entirely sure what he got hit with. But I'm just thankful. Like, I'm thanking God right now that, it didn't hit him in the head. Like, actually hit him directly in the head, that whoever was firing at the president missed, because it seemed to be a kill shot. Like, this seems to be an assassination attempt on the former president of the United States. Now,
listen, this guy wasn't trying to send a message or just scare anyone. He was looking to out Trump, completely remove him from the premises permanently.
Again, we don't know that for certain, okay? But with the way the Democrats have been talking, okay, the things they've been putting out there about Trump, the violence that we see from the left so frequently in this country, I would not be surprised if that is what we're looking at right now. If that is what we're dealing with right now. These people do not want Trump back in office, and they will do anything in order to keep that man out of office. So we really don't know yet, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised.
Right, I'm just going to do a blatant search and see. Just some alternative opinion coming from the left side of town. Wow. stateside as well, because it's been a good amount of commentary from our UK networks.
You see a lot of people look in that direction.
Are we good to move? We're clear. We're clear.
Right, ABC News. You see how they reported it. I think they are more left-leaning.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Okay, so a lot of reruns of the same clip. I was hoping we'll get some commentary. Let's go over to NBC.
This is an
some of their pundits who've really been having a go at Trump.
Good morning. We're coming on the air with more on the assassination attempt against former President Trump. I'm Kate Snow at NBC News headquarters in New York.
And I'm Tom Yamas on the ground in Butler, Pennsylvania, where a gunman opened fire on former President Donald Trump at a campaign rally just behind me here with thousands in attendance. Last night, the stage of a jubilant rally, now a crime scene, a massive crime scene and an active crime scene. And the site of the first assassination attempt against an American president in more than 40 years. The horrifying images, former President Trump clutching his ear, you see it right there after shots rang out, ducking for cover behind his podium, the Secret Service forming a human shield around him and rushing him off stage. Trump raising his fist in defiance, telling his supporters to fight as the blood streamed down his face.
The gunman taken down by the Secret Service, the shooting leaving one rally-goer dead, another two badly wounded, still hospitalized. President Biden, before the cameras last night, calling the shooting sick, as politicians on both sides of the aisle condemn the violence and support the former president. And this morning, what we're learning about the shooter, Tom.
And the latest on the investigation, Kate, right, which is now underway, plus the political fallout just hours before the start of the Republican National Convention, an election resting on a razor's edge and a nation now left reeling. Kate, I want to set the scene for you just behind me. As I mentioned, we were just outside the Trump rally here. This is where it happened last night.
MSNBC. I'm sure they're more left-leaning. How did they...
Joining us now by phone, CNBC's Joe Kernan, who just spoke with former President Trump. Joe, it's good to have you. What did the former president tell you?
He was on the mend. He was in very good spirits. He said, you know, except for this, you know how he talks. There's a little problem in my ear and his right ear. Other than that, he said, you probably heard about it. I said, yeah. And he goes, other than that, everything's great, and he was glad that he had turned his head, he told me at the last minute.
Was he introspective at all about the moment?
Damn right.
I've known him a long time, and it wasn't an interview that I was doing. It was more of a personal call. So introspective in the sense that I said nobody really knows how you're going to react with something like that, and I said that I thought it was pretty courageous, and I wanted to know what he was feeling at that moment before he stood up, and why he thought it was important for him to raise his fist and say fight, fight, and what was he actually talking about. And he said to just carry on with what he's trying to do, and, you know, for lack of a better term, to make America great.
Did you ask him about whether there were any changes in plans for the
This might be what I was referring to now about the...
It is a sad day for America. It is hard to find the words to describe the shock and the horror that people are feeling right now, after many of us were witnessing on live television the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. This is a devastating day for America. Right now, people are pouring their hearts out on social media and posting "Pray for Trump." Many of the people I'm speaking with over there are feeling scared about how close this was. Looking at the still images, you can see the bullet that pierced his right ear as he gets up with blood smeared on his face.
Look what happened.
something else.
This horrific act has just deepened an already huge divide in the United States of America. But if you were following media outlets like CNN today, well, you would have thought that Donald Trump had a fall. Look at this headline.
Yeah.
Secret Service rushed Trump off stage after he falls at rally. Falls.
Wait a minute.
It was an assassination attempt.
Has
just deepened an already huge divide in the United States of America. But if you were following media outlets like CNN today, well, you would have thought that Donald Trump had a fall. Look at this headline.
So, this is how they report it. Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally. This is after the video recorded Trump falling to the ground. Yes, he did fall. After 8 shots, Secret Service surrounding him, the other armed and kitted up guys, whatever their job is, all over the front of the stage. And you could hear somebody saying they've taken down the shooter. So for them to report it as a fall, strange.
Secret Service rushed Trump off stage after he falls at rally. Falls. It was an assassination attempt. He's not Joe Biden that doesn't know how to stand up. And that's not a one-off headline. This morning, I was looking at my phone and I was taking screenshots because even though it's CNN, I still couldn't believe it. The next headline I saw, Trump injured in incident at rally. Incident.
Injured.
That's really what they wanted to go with when the man who's been president before and is running again was just shot. Oh, and there's more. Video captures what happened at Trump rally that left him injured. Ooh, wonder what it could be. CNN is using the video as clickbait while refusing to acknowledge what it is that just occurred, and that is an attempt to murder the man who is running for president. Something that has not happened since 1981 when there was an assassination attempt on Republican President Ronald Reagan. I scroll further down CNN's website and I get to analysis, and of course there's this headline, Trump is favoured but Biden can still win this election. Well, I really doubt that. But let's leave CNN for now. I have more to say about their coverage in a moment because it actually gets worse. And let's look at some of the other reaction we are seeing today. And remember, America is right now feeling the weight and the heartbreak of what has unfolded today. But Colorado Democrat Stephen Woodrow posted on X, the last thing we need was sympathy for the devil, but here we are.
Holy moly.
Really classy. You know, comments like that are expected from troll Democrat Stephen Woodrow posted on X.
This is the type of thing that's caused the problem in the first place. And, you know, they won't admit that on those stations, although seems pretty obvious.
The last thing we need was sympathy for the devil, but here we are. Really classy. You know, comments like that are expected from troll accounts, but politicians, well, it really gives us an insight into how dark and how ugly some of the thinking and some of the attitudes are. And also how much hate there is for Donald Trump.
Some of these people are
so let's look at what some of the Democrats have said in the past. Have they ever called for political violence?
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite.
Now I'm wondering, could those same people come out and make those statements today? Some of them will, though.
And peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
Damn.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
They tried today, or yesterday.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth
You know,
when you need him?
Enough of that. Let's see what these folks over at Sky News Australia.
Let's bring in Newsweek journalist Batya Ungasagan, who joins us from New York. Now, police have identified the shooter. Can you tell us what do we know about the person responsible for this assassination attempt?
You know, we know very little. We know he's about 20 years old. We know that he's a resident of Pennsylvania. We know that he's a registered Republican, although the only political donation he ever made was on January 2021, which he made to Act Blue. So he seems still to be a little bit of a cipher at this moment. You know, obviously a person who could take an action like this has to be deeply, deeply disturbed. But I'm interested to see what more we can learn about this person. He seems to have no social media accounts, which is also very, very weird for a 21-year-old in 2024.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does seem very weird, and I guess in the next few days we'll find out more about this individual. But look, Batya, Donald Trump was due to announce his vice president in the next few days at the Republic convention. How does this attempted assassination impact that convention now?
Obviously, all eyes are on this story now. You know, if the last 3 weeks, all we've talked about is Joe Biden, right now we're really going to be talking about Donald Trump for a long time, especially his fortitude. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but right after being shot and almost killed, he stood up and gave a fist pump and said, fight, fight, fight. His first thought was on his followers. And he has made the case again and again that, you know, he's not the real target of the left here. He's just standing in the way. The real target is the American working class and the American people. And you really saw how even in this moment where his life was under threat, he was thinking about
end of the globe. And see how it's been reported over here in the UK.
The attempted assassination of Donald Trump marks the latest descent of the United States into the abyss. Now, of course, political violence in the US is hardly new. Well, violence of any description in the United States is hardly new.
Owen Jones, interesting. He does have some fair-minded statements to make, I've observed.
Sitting presidents have been assassinated. Abraham Lincoln, who led the Union to victory, of course, in the Civil War, he was assassinated in 1865. James A. Garfield, 1881. William McKinley, 1901. And, of course, John F. Kennedy in 1963. The 1960s was a particularly notorious decade.
Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, these folks, these guys, they aren't presidents, although they're hugely impactful on society, and maybe in a different era they might have been where Trump is now, running for the big spot, you know, exactly what Obama managed to do and survived his 8 years in this climate. Who knows what the outcome
political assassination. JF Kennedy's brother, Robert F. Kennedy, was assassinated in 1968. That was a couple of months after Martin Luther King was also assassinated. Malcolm X was assassinated 3 years before. In 1980, there was an attempt to assassinate Ronald Reagan by John Warnock Hinckley Jr. In his case, because he was fixated with the Hollywood actress Jodie Foster and thought it would impress her. He was found not guilty for reasons of insanity and placed in institutional care. Important to note that case because, of course, we don't, as of the time of filming this, know the exact circumstances of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump.
And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
That much we know.
What we do know is a 20-year-old man named Thomas Matthew Crooks was the shooter, and that he was killed on the scene, and that he has apparently a very limited imprint on the internet.
Right, this I don't quite understand from their
Welcome back. This is Talk, the home of common sense. 8:21 on Sunday, July the 14th. The shooter has now been named by the FBI as Thomas Matthew Crooks. He was a 20-year-old.
US government may not be honest. Okay, is that a news story?
Gunman was shot dead by Secret Service agents. The FBI did not name him until they got the results of his DNA back. Now, the latest lines coming out of the United States say they don't currently believe there are any additional existing threats, but this is still an active investigation. It's too early to conclusively say it was alone.
Maybe it's just a bad photo.
wolf attack. CNN, a news organisation in the United States, are reporting that the shooter...
And you know what? Not that it has any bearing on the story. When the media, an incident like this takes place and they find out who the actual suspect is, and then they go on, trawl their social media or investigate the person to find out who they are, what they're like, who their friends are, and then they pull up a picture. They rarely ever pull up a happy picture unless that's the image they're trying to put across.
Was a registered Republican who made a £15 donation to a Democratic-aligned group. Now, President Biden has said he condemns equivocally the shooting at the Trump rally in Pennsylvania, citing there is no place for this kind of violence, going on to say it is sick, it's sick. He's also been quoted as saying he is grateful that Donald Trump is safe and doing well following the campaign rally shooting. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has...
See, this is where it gets a bit strange, because the way they've been going at each other, both sides, and the way the left have been going at Trump, and the ones who've been blatantly coming out and saying that they want this guy to be taken out in all manners of ways. Some of them are changing their stance and saying, oh, well, we shouldn't go to these extremes. We're glad he's safe and blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. I'm sure there's those who would be celebrating had it gone a different way, and they still hold those thoughts. Though we'll wait and see if anybody's going to be blatant enough to come out.
I'm appalled by the shocking scene.
Those thoughts
at President Trump's rally, and we send him and his family our best wishes. Political violence in any form has no place in our societies, and my thoughts are with all the victims of this attack. Two big voices in the United States have also spoken now. Bill Clinton says violence has no place in America, especially in our political process. Hillary and I are thankful.
The strange thing, though, is somebody said, not about Clinton, but Hillary, not sure. The things they've been saying about Trump for the last 8 years, I mean, some of them are bordering on saying, yeah, we want the guy to be taken out. So it's a little bit, suspect for some of these statements they're coming out with now. We'll see how long they can keep it up.
That President Trump is safe and heartbroken for all those affected by the attack at today's rally in Pennsylvania, and grateful for the swift action of the US Secret Service. Barack Obama has said there is absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy. Although we don't yet know exactly what has happened, we should all be relieved that former President Trump was...
Now, why would Eric Adams need to hold a press briefing in response to the shooting? Okay, he is the mayor of a very influential state in the U.S.
Let me begin by saying that this morning I communicated with Mayor Eric Adams.
Yes, this would be a left
that I felt that it was time that the faith leaders and those that deal in the space of these issues, particularly from a spiritual point of view, no matter what religion we practice, no matter where we serve and minister, to really come out and deal with the normalizing of political violence, and to really say in the hometown of former President Donald Trump that we no way condone or support any violence against him, his family.
Some of these people are the ones who've been calling the devil. They want this to happen. They don't want him locked up. They don't want him on the scene. People should be able to
he
vote.
and I have debated and fought for 35
now
years.
They're saying, anyway.
But violence is wrong, no matter who you oppose. We must have a nation that celebrates
the pre-midterm rights,
the diversity of our views, and the democracy of our decisions. We cannot settle our political differences with bullets. We settle them with ballots. And that is why we wanted to come across different lines of worship, different political lines. We're not going to agree, That's what makes the country work. And if he had been of a different party and a different race, I would have called the mayor. It is a test on all of us, if we're real faith leaders, when we can do it with people.
My question to you, does he sound believable?
We oppose, but saying that we oppose becoming like the people that we've shown opposition and behavior in the past. I remember in 1991, and the mayor remembers this, he was a policeman then. I was stabbed leading a peaceful march in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. So when I say I pray for the former president's recovery and his family, I know what the trauma is of tasting your own blood. And I don't care who you are in public life, your family's traumatized. And it will not end with everybody just saying.
You're probably telling the truth. For what it's worth, I believe you.
Words. This is something you will never, ever get over. Today, people approach me at airports or places saying, I want to take a selfie, and I jump because I still have in me this man coming in front of me plunging. So this is more than politics. This is whether or not we make this country where people don't want to practice getting
Yeah, but the thing is, they say it's more than politics, but it is politics. It's 2024. Today's media, social media, internet-based communicating platforms where everybody everywhere gets all the information. This is today's politics.
Because we've normalized violence. So we denounce it from his hometown. We will fight on the issues, but we will not fight about having the safety from the political arena that all of us should have as we participate. And I know no one.
They tried, they failed, luckily for Trump and probably for humanity, because if he was taken out, yeah, it could secure Biden's position come November. I think, who knows what's on its way, it would have just brought it forward. And America, at the moment, they're on the edge of something fairly volcanic, and anything that can slow the pace and dilute it even slightly probably isn't a bad thing. So on that note, thank you very much. I hope I haven't kept you up for too long. And as Trump intimated, if that's the right word, I won't say fight unless it's for a good cause. Be good, be safe, be creative. Corner Speak. Thanks for spending time with me. We out.